The Basement Dwellers podcast is brought to you by Player One Coffee.
At Player One Coffee, we're obsessed with gaming, coffee, and, well, gaming. Every one of our signature roasts is handcrafted and tasty as Get yours at playeronecoffee.com.
Plus, order your Player One Coffee through our affiliate link, and not only will you receive 5% off of your first order, you'll also help support our show in the process.
Press start to continue.
They are those who live in the shadows, who feed upon Doritos and Mountain Dew. They take comfort in their dark habitats as they watch reruns of sci-fi shows long past. They are the Basement Dwellers.
Show me what you got.
So say we all. So say we all. So say we all.
Indeed. Yes. This is a fertile land and we will thrive. We will rule over all this land and we will call it this land.
Make it so.
Join me. Together, we can rule the galaxy far from sun. I want to believe.
We better get back, because it'll be dark soon, and they mostly come at night. Mostly.
Hello, my nerdy brethren and sisterin. Welcome to Season 2 of The Basement Dwellers, a bi-weekly podcast dedicated to all activities most enjoyed by those who spend their time in the deepest, darkest, and dankest of basements everywhere. I'm your host, Wes Tanner, and this is the beginning of a new age for TBD. As some of you may or may not have noticed, we have recently done some work behind the scenes. We have a newly designed website which you can find by going to www.tbdpod.com, as well as an updated Facebook page and a newly launched Patreon campaign. So if you'd like to support our show in any way, shape, or form, please head over to our website and click on the Support the Show link for some ideas. Who knew, right? But anywho, with this, our first episode of Season 2, we're going to do a little bit of soul-searching as we hit up lots of nerdy news, followed by an extended segment on the Stigma of Nerdom. I'm joined, as always, by my fellow basement dwellers, Drew, Tucci, Tracy, returning guest JJ, and introducing Joe. How's it going, guys?
Hey, how are you?
Good. Awesome.
Everyone else is dead, apparently.
We're trying not to jump all over each other.
Yeah, no,
trying to keep it civil.
We just had
staggering it.
Just had this discussion earlier. I like the rabble. I like
Tucci's always trying to jump all over me, so I don't know what he's talking about now.
Yeah,
that's pretty accurate. But I try to keep it outside of work since we work together. It's a little weird. Yeah.
You do it at work. That's what the back bathrooms are for.
We don't have back bathrooms. We do have a bathroom with a shower in it, though.
Ooh.
Does anybody use it?
This is escalating to a
People
place
have
I did not intend. I apologize to anybody listening.
I do know people there that do actually use those showers, yes.
Oh my god.
Is it a whole locker room situation, or is it just like...
We have locker rooms, yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
People work out on their lunch break and stuff and then come back and use it.
It's to keep the smell contained.
I don't, because what's a gym?
Oh, I thought you meant showering.
It's a gym's where you fight Pokemon masters, right?
That's the one.
Yeah. Who doesn't get sweaty after a Pokemon battle?
Yeah, I don't have anything to say on that. So we've had somewhat of an extended break between now and last season. What has everyone been up to? JJ, you're recently coming back from a break from was it just Facebook or all social media?
No, it's just Facebook. I say it on Twitter because I like to.
You like to be civilized.
Yeah, no, it's no, because Twitter's far from civilized too. No, honestly, like the biggest reason I stay on there, other than I do like to keep up with current events and stuff as well. And every now and then I'll see an article that I like that I'll look into. But mostly because I'm a retro game collector, I follow a few accounts on there that will immediately put out like a deal that just popped up on some website that I can look into. And so obviously if I don't have that, then I might miss out on something and then I end up kicking myself. But yeah, Facebook,
you kick yourself?
I took a break from. I like do this weird jump in the air and one leg back into my butt. And it's really awkward to see, but it works. I don't know where I'm going with that at all. You ask me a question, I get an answer. You're welcome.
All right. And anybody else?
Who else kicks themselves?
Yeah, for real.
Just you, JJ.
Who hasn't jump skip kicked their own ass?
Thank you.
Dude, you're not alone on this. I got your back, homie.
I mean, are we talking like in a non like what's the word I'm looking for?
No, this is all for.
Can't even reply to that, can you?
Yeah, it's a lot to take in, honestly. Yeah.
You don't have to phrase it like that.
I know. I had to phrase it exactly like that for everybody.
Okay,
because that's what she said.
Yeah. So Joe, not to put you on the spot, but kind of, you're new to the show, so we need to have a little introduction for you because I'm horrible at doing that for people just joining the show, apparently. So what are you into? What makes you like part of nerd culture, I guess?
Why you got to put me on the spot like this? I don't even know if I am a nerd.
He's a part of the Illuminati.
Please.
Listen, no. He's a part of the Illuminati.
The Illuminati, am I right?
Yeah. No, but for real, Joe, like what are your interests?
I don't know. I used to play a lot of D&D. Used to play Magic the Gathering. Almost got into like Warhammer and stuff like that, but that was just way too much work. Nowadays, I mostly just work and listen to music.
And like troll Twitch repeatedly.
Hey, I listen to music on Twitch. The music community on Twitch is actually really great.
Yeah.
But to give a little background there, it's because I work seconds. So I get home at like 11 p.m. and I don't end up going to sleep until like 2 or 4. So it's basically my interaction with the world right now.
Yeah, I get it, man. Oh, Ethan, you here, bud? Yeah.
I am.
You got anything new going on?
Cider?
Cider. You made cider.
I made cider. Peach mango cider.
Ooh, that sounds pretty good. And speaking of brewing, a few of us got a chance to actually test out the TBD Crew basement brew that we've.
Oh my god!
Yeah. Well, you didn't. Honestly, Tucci, you didn't miss anything this tasting because I don't think it was ready.
No.
I don't think it was ready yet. But I'm happy to report that this was just a couple days ago, so that would have been 2 weeks after we first tried it. It's tasting a lot better.
Yeah.
So it's a stout, so it just needs to age a bit, and it's kind of rounding out its flavor. I mean, it's missing a little of the heftiness
it might be a
that we
stout.
want. So yeah, I don't know what you really want to call it. It's like a coffee ale at this point. So Lost in Space on Netflix. Anybody been watching it?
Not yet.
Not yet.
What's that?
Jesus, Tucci.
What?
You serious?
It's a Will Ferrell movie.
Shut up, you liar.
Joe, what'd you think of it?
So I may have binge watched the entire thing on Sunday, and it was really good. I highly recommend it. They did a really great job.
One day?
Okay.
You did it in one day?
Don't judge me. I had a day off.
There's 10
How many
episodes.
Is it 10? Wow.
I had a week off from work. I took one day to do it. Leave me alone.
I support it.
I support it too because it is. They actually did a good job with it. I know all of us here, probably with the exception of Joe, were kind of worried that the kid playing Will Robinson was going to be another Jake Lloyd from Star Wars. As far as we weren't sure how if he was going to be annoying and ruin the show or not, but I think everyone they got on the show so far has been held it together really good. I mean, the story's good, the acting's good, the visuals are great. I don't know. I can't compare it to anything other than the most recent movie, which was from, I don't know when it was, but one with what's his fuck nuts from Friends.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
What's his name?
Matt, whatever.
Matt LeBlanc. Is that it?
Matt
That's
LeBlanc.
Yeah. So all I can do is compare it to the movie because
LeBlanc.
the original show is before my time. But
Just out of curiosity, is it like more? I remember because my dad was a huge fan of the original, and he had like those DVDs lying around when I was growing up and stuff. Or I guess VHS. God, I'm old. Is it more like episodic, like the older stuff, or does it have continuity?
Continuity. Yeah, they actually they did it, and this was the only part that I was kind of a little disappointed in when I first started it, but appreciated it by the end of the first episode. It's one of those shows where it's a flashback show, so well, at least the first couple episodes were. So it was it kind of drops you right in the middle of them getting lost in space, and then you're kind of like, oh shit, did I like miss the beginning portion of this or what? But then it shows you flashbacks leading up to the point that they're at now. So what can I say? It's like Lost and like Stargate Universe, where they kind of show the back histories of the characters leading up to where they're at now.
It's like Lost, only in space.
Yeah.
Hey, no. Sorry.
Now it's time to see what's up in the world of nerdy news.
All right, first up in Better Start Saving news via GameSpot, the PS5 is real, but is not coming anytime soon. Sony is planning a new console, but don't expect it to launch anytime soon. That's according to a report today from Kotaku, which cites sources saying that the PlayStation 5, or whatever Sony decides to call it, might not release until 2020. Two unnamed developers that Kotaku spoke with said that they had knowledge of Sony's plans for a new system, and both said that the system isn't likely to come out until 2019 at the earliest. However, plans can change, and this is a quote, "On a multi-year project, a lot can happen to shift schedules both forward and backwards," one source said. Continuing to quote, "At some point, Sony's probably looking at every possible date. It's all about what they think is the best sweet spot in terms of hardware." Yeah, I hope it doesn't come out anytime soon because I'm still in love with my PS4, and it would be a damn shame to have to feel like I can't keep up with everything else. So, let's see here. Next up in holy shit Batman news via IGN, GTA 5, Grand Theft Auto 5 has made more money than any film, book, or game, says analyst. Industry analyst Doug Roots says Grand Theft Auto 5 has made more money than any other form of media in history, with over 90 million units sold and $6 billion in revenue. Krutz, managing director and senior research analyst covering the media and entertainment sector at Cowen, told MarketWatch that the game has made more than blockbuster movies like Star Wars and Gone with the Wind, which both brought in around $3 billion in theaters when adjusted for inflation. Krutz estimates that even with home entertainment sales, which he puts in the ballpark of $1 billion, the films don't even come close to Rockstar's 2013 title. That's pretty impressive, I would say. Does anybody play that?
I have played it.
I did play it when I had it for.
I don't think I think I played 4, but I don't think I played 5.
I think the last one I played was 3.
I played through 5. It was pretty good.
I've played a little bit online and a little bit of the story, but I really didn't get into it.
The story's really good.
The story's not bad.
The story is good. The online is cancer.
Oh, the online is garbage.
Don't people just kind of just fuck around and like do like tricks with vehicles and?
I mean, what else is there to do in Grand Theft Auto?
I think it's got a strong modding community, which is what's keeping it going.
See, I heard they restricted
and
those.
just decimate everything.
Yeah. I heard they restricted the cheat, or not the cheat modes, the mods though, didn't they? Did I hear that right?
Oh, I don't know. I honestly haven't followed it that closely.
Yeah.
I just assumed that was the case because, I mean, a game like that's already a huge playground. You know, you throw in mods and, I mean, possibilities are literally endless.
Yeah.
I feel like they made it so you can't beat the game if you, like, use the cheat codes.
It wouldn't surprise me.
It was literally like you couldn't win if you put cheat codes in or something. I may be talking
You
out
can't
of my ass.
mod and play on their online, but you can play on modded servers. And the modded servers are actually pretty awesome. There's a lot of really good RP servers out there. Like if you look up Family RP, is one of them that's got a lot of really good streamers that do like really high quality cinematic streaming in their RP. It's actually pretty cool.
That does sound pretty cool. When you say Family RP, are you talking like Mob Family?
It's just I think it's just a bunch of streamers that just felt like they were family and decided to
Oh,
name Family
okay.
RP.
All right.
No, man, it's just everyday life. 9 to 5 jobs. Take the kids to scouts and baseball and soccer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Yeah.
Go to the Super Mormon Temple on Sundays or Saturdays or whenever they go.
So much hate
Buy your
for
underwear, man.
Mormons today.
That's a whole reference that no one's gonna get because that was all during the break.
Yeah. So.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
The segue out of that was pretty interesting. You opened up with PlayStation. I'm like, wow, that's a bit of a curve.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I gotta keep the show rolling somehow, right? Yeah, I know. Moving on to some cool crossover news via comicbook.com. Rick and Morty crossover with Dungeons and Dragons announced. IDW Publishing and Oni Press announced a crossover between IDW's comics based on Dungeons and Dragons and Oni Press's comics based on the Adult Swim series Rick and Morty. The crossover miniseries will be written by Patrick Rothfuss, the Kingkiller Chronicles, and Jim Zub, The Avengers and Wayward, who will work with Eisner-nominated artist Troy Little, who worked on Hunter S. Thompson's Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. The miniseries will put Rick and Morty on a high fantasy adventure of the kind that Dungeons and Dragons is known for. It begins when Morty asks Rick to teach him about Dungeons and Dragons. As fans of Rick and Morty might expect, things go wrong, and Rick and Morty and the rest of the Smith family end up on an unexpected adventure. So that should be pretty interesting. When I first saw this, I didn't realize it was a comic book, but that makes sense too. So, moving onward to That's Not How Last Names Work news via the Daily Dot. The world weathers possibility of Indiana Jones. Steven Spielberg thinks now is the perfect time for the Indiana Jones franchise to let Indiana Jones have a shot. Fresh off the success of Ready Player One, a film that could have benefited from a little more female perspective, Spielberg has been playing around with the idea of a woman-led film when Harrison Ford retires. The upcoming 5th installment of the franchise, which is out in 2020, will be Ford's last, but Spielberg said the movies would continue. He told The Sun, "We'd have to change the name from Jones to Joan, and there would be nothing wrong with that." But the internet disagreed. While some fans are predictably bristling at the idea of a woman taking the role, others wondered why there would even need to be a name change. And many people pointed out that that's just not how last names work. The article...
Yeah, thank you. That's what I was thinking. I was like, who gives a shit about the gender?
Yeah.
Like, who actually cares?
But, I mean, to be fair, isn't that just Tomb Raider?
Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah. Well, here's the thing. The next part to this is the article's author does make a good point at the end of the article, and when she asks, "And do we really need another Indiana Jones movie after this next one? Harrison Ford will be close to 80 years old when it comes out, and the last year we've seen the films like Annihilation, Wonder Woman, Tomb Raider, and Atomic Blonde do very well at the box office, and series like Jessica Jones fare well on TV. Why not create an original action film with a woman lead instead of banking on the nostalgia of a limp franchise?
Right.
And if we're doing that, why not get a director who's not so out of touch?" And I actually agree. I mean, I don't know. It just doesn't. It's just funny.
Where's the prunes?
I mean, it's such an easy transition.
I'm old as fuck.
Yeah.
it's such an easy transition too. It's like why would you even change? Like again, why would you even change the last name?
Yeah,
and I mean, not only could you make it woman, but you could make it a female, black woman, right?
Wait, no,
so,
guys, isn't Shia LaBeouf supposed to be the next Indiana Jones? I mean,
oh God, no.
No, I don't know.
No.
The end of the
well, hey man, you guys don't know. Her name might be Joan Jones.
Oh,
kill me now.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
no, I don't think it's bad. I think that'd be a decent transition that would appeal to the change in the market right now as far as movies and stuff, and I mean, it'd offer a whole new timeline of events, right? So I don't see the problem in it.
Yeah, and at the very least, they could even just tie it into the original by saying that, she's like a daughter, or anybody with the same last name,
or somehow related to Indiana Jones.
He met at the strip club.
Yeah, it could literally be anything. Right? Yeah,
he met a stripper, and instead of tipping her $, he tipped her his name.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, go ahead and give your next kid my name.
Yeah. So next up in That's Fucking Funny news via Game Rant. There's a petition to get rid of Fortnite, and it's reached almost 1,000 signatures.
Why?
Is it the PUBG crowd?
No, just wait. It's no secret that people like Fortnite.
Fortnite, I love Fortnite. Great food.
I am totally playing Fortnite.
Oh, anyway, let me start that over again. It's no secret that people like Fortnite, and some are dedicated Some have dedicated quite a bit of time to the Battle Royale game. There we go. However, the amount of time people are spending with Fortnite has caused some concern, even leading to a petition that, while initially made as a joke, seems to have caught the attention of people who genuinely want the game banned. The petition, which has 919 signatures at the time of this writing, that was actually a couple weeks ago, so who knows what it's at now, was created by two people named Chloe and Jaden as a call to, quote, get rid of Fortnite for the apparent effect it has on males. The petition mentions how mothers, wives, and girlfriends are, quote, annoyed when their significant others ignore them for the free-to-play Battle Royale game as the main reason for why it should be banned. After the petition caught the eye of mainstream news media, including the Washington Post, Chloe and Jaden updated the page to explain that while they initially started it as a joke, they do think that Fortnite is a rising issue with families. And, that's just bullshit.
My one comment to those people that are complaining about it: be more interesting. Be more interesting, and they'll put down the damn game. Like, it's that simple. I don't understand why this is such a hard issue.
Well, apparently Lucci, Jesus,
Lucci. I'm changing my name to Lucci right now.
Oh,
dude,
God damn it!
You all right? How many drinks in are you?
I've just had one actually, but Tucci, you do know that.
No, it's Lucci now.
Lucci, okay. Tucci Luchador. Gaming is a mental illness now, right?
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I cringed about as hard as I just cringed now.
We talked about that earlier.
Yeah,
in a different episode.
That's something. That's definitely something.
Anyway,
I mean, do I get disability now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways,
that I had to include that one just because it was stupid and funny. We always have to have something kind of stupid and funny in the news. Now for some rapid fire headlines only news. Via Epic Stream, yep, thanks. Via Epic Stream, Amazon's The Lord of the Rings TV series will reportedly have 5 seasons, and it will cost them around $1 billion to create.
$1 billion.
$1 billion. Yep. Next one, via Dread Central, Woody Harrelson will play Carnage in the new Venom movie starring Tom Hardy.
I mean, I've just been
bad, wrong, no, bad, wrong.
I like Woody Harrelson.
I'm over it.
Yeah,
I do too. He's not Cletus Cassidy.
Yeah.
I just want to confirm. So that's Venom, as in like the Spider-Man series?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, finally, they're doing something with
Sort
that
of.
character. Jesus. I mean, I've been waiting for something like that to come out for a long time. Like the way they did it in the first Spider-Man series with what's his fuck?
It was awful.
Topher Grace.
Yeah,
Topher Grace.
Well, I mean, his only appearance was like the last 20 minutes of the damn movie. Like, what the fuck?
Well, prepare to be confused. They're combining a couple story arcs, it sounds like, and they're not really the original Venom Spider-Man story arc but supposedly Spider-Man's going to be in it, so I'm confused. But
wait, which Spider-Man though?
Tom Holland.
The new guy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's fine, I guess.
Yeah, he's
as long as they're not switching to Spider-Man again. Like that's been my big problem is they haven't kept the same actor for Spider-Man.
They originally made it sound like it was going to be a standalone without Spider-Man at all, but then last time I checked IMDb, Tom Holland's name was on it as Peter Parker.
Okay.
I bet it's going to be a cameo role.
Out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be a last minute pop or something, or cameo like you said.
Or like
but they're doing the
maybe it won't be Spider-Man
scene.
though. Maybe it really will be just Peter Parker.
Yeah, they're doing the Planet of the Symbiotes story arc is what it is.
Okay.
Where it's basically Venom versus Carnage, where Venom's the anti-hero.
Well, maybe then at the end of the movie it'll show, Peter Parker walking, and that'll be like the next, Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man movie.
And the symbiote can slide into his backpack.
Yeah.
Then we get
emo as fuck again.
And then we get Black Spider-Man, snappy jazz dancing.
Right.
Just smoke a jazz
Oh
cigarette.
God.
Hell yeah, dude.
Oh, that was such a horrible scene.
Just like, Justin Bieber used to do back in the good old days.
Your quick fire news got derailed.
Yeah, it did. I'm not even gonna say the last one because the steam the steam has been let from it. Next up in big fucking rocket news via Ars Technica and also courtesy of Joe, last minute edition here. During his State of the City address on Monday, the mayor of Los Angeles made it official. SpaceX will build the Big Falcon rocket, or as I just called it, the Big Fucking Rocket, at the port of Los Angeles. Quote, "This vehicle holds the promise of taking humanity deeper into the cosmos than ever before." Eric Garcetti added
Better
on
take
Twitter.
me.
Yeah.
Alpha Centauri, here we come, bitches.
The mention of SpaceX during Garcetti's speech confirmed widespread speculation about SpaceX's 30-year lease of an 18-acre site at Berth 240 in the port. SpaceX plans to build a state-of-the-art industrial manufacturing facility at this port location on the water near Long Beach, about 20 miles south of its headquarters. The rocket company has already begun to move hardware from temporary facilities at the site, including a tooling that will be used to make carbon fiber composites for the rocket's upper stage, also known as the Big Falcon spaceship. SpaceX intends to manufacture the BFR components beside the water for easy shipping to test sites and launch pads. SpaceX has yet to disclose where it will test the massive booster, but it could begin preliminary hop tests of the rocket's spaceship later this year or in 2019 at SpaceX's land in South Texas near Brownsville. So yeah, the future is now, guys. I think that's pretty fucking sweet.
I mean, all I've got to say is I've been 50 Shades of ready for something like this for years now. So yeah, I am ready. I am fucking ready. Go ahead.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. Elon Musk is the supervillain we all need.
Yeah, I mean, for real, he really is. Like,
he's
like I was listening.
He is literally Lex Luthor in real life. Only
like,
there is no Superman to stop him, and I love it.
And to prove it, the whole Cambridge Analytica thing actually made him pull any Tesla and whatever his company's name is, pulled any of his presence off of Facebook.
Yeah, he did it. Someone tweeted at him. Like you're a hypocrite for remaining on Facebook. And he was like, "Oh, we're still on Facebook," and then they took it down. Yeah. So, let's see here. Last but not least, we end this long ass news section with some awesome book news via Inverse. New J.R.R. Tolkien book is the first Middle-earth war and the biggest ever. The Guardian has reported that a new story set in Middle-earth called The Fall of Gondolin would be published this August. The book is indeed written by famed Hobbit and Lord of the Rings author J.R.R. Tolkien, but much like 2017's Beren and Luthien, it's edited and completed by Tolkien's son Christopher. The Fall of Gondolin follows the Noldor elf Tuor as he seeks the hidden city of Gondolin, which the evil Morgoth wants to destroy. John Garth, the author of Tolkien and the Great War, told The Guardian that Tolkien originally wrote The Fall of Gondolin while convalescing in a hospital directly after the Battle of, I don't know how you say this, Somme, during World War I, which is historically one of the bloodiest battles in human history. Ultimately, this story has little bearing on the events presented in Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit. All of this happens perhaps as much as 6,000 years before anything most fans would recognize. The new book getting released actually comes as a bit of surprise to most people. Christopher Tolkien is notoriously protective of his father's works, and he wrote in the preface to Beren and Luthien, quote, "This is preemptively my last book in the long series of editions of my father's writings." That assumption, it would seem, has proven false. Hardcore fans of Tolkien's world have something new to look forward to, especially if they're not too keen on the upcoming Amazon series, which, I don't know, I think a lot of people are tossing around judgments of the Amazon series before we even know what it's going to be about. So as far as
the Amazon series?
Lord of the Rings, man.
Well, I mean, they said Lord of the Rings, but if they specify Lord of the Rings, that's a specific part of the story.
Yeah, I don't know.
They should have called it a Tolkien series if they're going to go somewhere else.
I think more people would recognize Lord of the Rings.
Fair.
You know what I mean?
It could just be
which, you know, is kind of a little something that we're going to be talking about later as far as the mainstreaming of nerdiness here. So yeah, with that, we're going to go ahead and take our first commercial break, and when we get back, we're going to launch into an extended segment, which we're going to call the Stigma of Nerdom. So,
which means you get to listen to our opinions about stuff.
Yeah, so we'll be right back.
Hey, you nerd. Have you subscribed to the show yet? Now you can find the Basement Dwellers podcast on the following platforms: iTunes, Google Play, Podbean, and SoundCloud. Also, make sure to like our Facebook page where you can stay up to date on all the things. And now, back to the show.
And we're back, and we're going to go ahead and launch into our main segment for the evening, the Stigma of Nerdom. The whole premise of the show tonight, and this segment in particular, is to explore how nerd culture has evolved over the years, or decades. Obviously, not all of us have been around for all the transformations that have taken place, but we're going to do our best and at least give our own personal perceptions. So for starters, how would you guys define nerd culture? And what makes a nerd a nerd?
I think I guess I'll kick it off. I feel like a lot of it has to do with kind of mind versus physicality. And what I mean by that is, like, you've got people who are totally into things like sports and strength and showing off how strong they are and that kind of stuff. And then you've got people who are into things that use their imagination, like, sci-fi, fantasy, Dungeons and Dragons, video games, in addition to even going so far as to technology, science, that kind of stuff, things that more focus with your mind, rather than just, brute strength on something or agility or anything like that. And I think that's kind of where the divide starts. But and I mean, I could go from there and say that it's certainly changed in recent years, but I figure that's probably going to come up later on. But anyways, that's how I look at it, at least.
Yeah.
Excuse me, my dexterity checks are amazing.
Has anybody, as a quick note here, has anybody ever tried to create a character sheet or for any role playing system using you yourself as the character? Like, have you ever like put down your stats?
Charisma 40.
I tried to make
out of 100.
I tried to make my party do that one time for a Call of Cthulhu game. I'm like, well, you have to rate up yourself as a character because you're playing you.
Yeah.
And my entire party got terribly depressed. So we have never done that again.
That really takes some self-reflection to put your real life skills onto a piece of paper, doesn't it?
Like I try to give myself enough credit, but not be too, like, you know what I mean? Like, be modest at the same time. So
I think you almost, in order to do that, you almost have to be like really obsessed with yourself.
Yeah.
Or like,
let's see.
Those would be absolute garbage.
According to the rules, average is 8 to 10, strength 6, dexterity 7,
yeah,
right,
charisma -4.
Oh, buddy,
we like you.
I've got great charisma. Okay,
charisma's more than looks, guys. It's your personality. Says the
That's why we always added comeliness too. Comeliness 0.
I think that'll be a fun future segment right there. I think that'll be a fun future segment.
Yes, we do. No, we need to just have literally a segment where each of us makes a personal character sheet.
Yeah,
that would be great.
It'll be yeah.
Oh, my fortitude is garbage.
Age venerable.
So
basically, I'm a fucking wizard. Okay.
So anyway, to bring it back to the original question, does anybody want to
talking about nerds?
Yeah. Does anybody want to like expand on what JJ said?
I think the interwebs definition of nerd is fairly accurate. It says.
Did you just Google it?
I did. I did literally. I don't know.
Off the cuff, you jerk.
That seems to be a trend with you, Tucci.
Well, yeah, Google is like the highway to knowledge. But I specifically Googled what is nerd culture, and it popped up with nerd, the definition from Wikipedia, which is by fact. And it says a nerd is a person seen as overly intellectual, obsessive, or lacking social skills.
Wow.
Now, I would like to compound on that because there's always been a bit of a crowbar separation between nerd, geek, and dork.
Okay.
And
sort of, yeah.
I've always been under the understanding that nerds were more hyper-focused on one aspect or one thing, like a math nerd or a music nerd, whereas geeks were a little more rounded, even though you could have a computer geek, a gamer geek, or whatever, but...
Yeah, they were like kind of like archetypes, of a wizard.
Yeah. But fucking nerd.
We're officially on that theme for the rest of the night. So yeah, no, I would agree, and I think what was I gonna say about
and
this?
Dorks were the most like socially
inept.
I don't know, awkward. Yeah, inept.
Yeah.
With no real backing to it. Per se, there was like no intellect and no, hey, I'm into this thing.
Like if you're corny, you typically get called a dork.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think there's more of a pejorative to say. Well, I don't know. Calling someone a dork is pretty playful. You know what I mean?
You giant whale penis.
Yeah, exactly.
I forgot the word have.
Yeah. but I think. God damn! I forgot what I was going to say again. I think what and we're gonna obviously we're kind of talking about this as one topic here, but I think what you guys described is kind of, I feel like that's almost more of the traditional definition of like nerd culture. Evolved. Yeah, and I think
it's definitely evolved.
A little less mainstream, a little more pursuit and counterculture. Or weird academic pursuits. I mean, I know there's other countercultures that wouldn't slide into geek or nerddom.
Yeah. So next question, do you think that there is still a stigma attached to being nerdy?
Yes and or no.
I think there's levels to it. Yeah, it's definitely not as clear cut as it used to be.
Yeah. And
it's really not. Like you have the people that are like, oh, I play console games, and that makes me a nerd. It's like, oh, I mean, like, kind of.
Yeah, I feel like there are levels to it, like you said, because I think the problem is that it's not so much that nerds have less stigma as nerd things that, we used to all love and nobody else knew about have now become mainstream. Yeah. More than mainstream people have become nerds.
Okay. All right. Tracy, what do you think?
Yeah, well, and I actually kind of broke it down into a bunch of little subgroups here. And
we have sub nerds.
Yeah. I went on
talk about nerdy.
Nerding about nerds.
All right.
Nerd archetypes.
Yeah, I made a list. Okay.
The nerd
the nerd classes.
Yeah. So you've got your gamers. You've got board games, video games, RPGers. Then you've got your comic book and graphic novel junkies. You've got your movies and your anime. And then you've got your Ren Fair and reenactors play, and then your academic aspect of it, people that are really into science and math and stuff like that. And then you have your techie nerds who any sort of technology. Am I missing anything?
No,
I'm sure there's plenty more.
Yeah,
right.
I think that about covers it.
But I feel like that's kind of when most people think of nerds or geeks. That's kind of the groups that they think of, or what I think geeks or nerds are into.
Yeah,
I think they still stick the stigma to the deep geeks.
The deep geeks.
Yeah,
deep geeks.
Think about it. The actual basement dwellers.
Yes, I think comic book culture has gone mainstream thanks to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, etc.
Yeah.
But a lot of the people that are into Marvel Cinematic Universe haven't actually bothered to go out and read any comic books or don't care. They're like, oh yeah, they come from comic books, but they're fucking amazing. Then there's another group of people that are like, oh, these are cool. I'm going to check out the comic books too. Yeah, maybe a little bit of stigma to them, but not as much. And then there's the people that started in comic books back in the 60s, 70s, 80s and have, 4,000 comic books in every room of their house.
Yeah.
And you're still going to get going, what the fuck is wrong with that boy?
Yeah, and it's also the interesting stigma with nerds is that's definitely changed is the physical aspect. For instance, being out of shape and overweight and stuff like that. Oh, I definitely am, so I fit the original term nerd. But when it comes down to it, I mean, a lot of professional gamers, for instance, actually work out, they have workout regimens and really healthy diets, because it helps them react quicker in video games in different situations like that.
That is a whole new level of nerdiness right there.
Yeah, and I play with and even non super MLG guys, my competitive group that I've played with for a couple years now. Our main guy, the guy that was the head of the the founder, I guess you could say, of the gaming group. He rock climbs, runs miles daily, eats super healthy. The guy is just an overall really active person, but loves nerd culture. So I mean, I don't know if that the out of shape thing really fits anymore as far as the stigma.
Not as much, no.
Well, I think it has changed a little bit, because the original nerd was the super skinny, thin kid. Because JJ, I think you mentioned it before. It was the biggest difference that we can point to from the original. I guess the original definition is a separation between intellect and physical. So, correct. With the first, I guess the first iteration of nerddom was
the first nerd.
Yeah, was all these super thin kids that couldn't throw a ball and you know what I mean. They couldn't compete physically with all the jocks, so they had to it's kind of like a blind person where they can't.
Intellectual.
They can't see, so they develop better senses elsewhere. So yeah,
and not to mention those kids were always ostracized because they weren't good-looking, popular, athletic, couldn't do the, high school football team. So you get picked on, you get ignored, and you go off and you do other things.
Yeah,
like go to a fantasy world and play D&D.
Yep, where you can be the big, strong.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So, fun fact though, real quick. I did Google who was the first nerd, and it says I'm not kidding you. It says that the first documented use of the word nerd is in the 1950 Dr. Seuss story, "If I Ran the Zoo."
Really?
Yeah, in which a boy named Gerald McGrew made a large number of delightfully extravagant claims as to what he would do if he were in charge at a zoo.
Huh.
God damn it, Gucci.
Yeah, you're welcome. Knowledge. Get knowledge done.
Joe, what about you, man? Do you have anything to add to this?
No, not really. You guys covered it pretty well.
Okay. All right. So
I think the other thing that I want to say too on that is with the mainstreamity of nerd culture is that you'll get a lot of people that take nerd culture and go, yeah, that's cool. Deadpool's fucking awesome, man.
Mm-hmm.
Love Deadpool. Some of this other guy's like, well, did you know that in 1984, Deadpool was, and we'll give you every single fucking fact about Deadpool ever and tell you how you're wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually taught by someone kind of in that fashion. I was like, dude, I love that, Deadpool loves chimichangas. And they were like, well, technically...
I just Googled it, and
no, they didn't say they just Googled it. They actually just straight knowledged me, straight from their mind, and I was like,
everybody
oh my
else suddenly
God.
takes 3 steps back and turns back to their martini. Is like, so yeah, Deadpool,
Yeah.
fucking cool.
Yeah.
So next question here. How do you guys think nerd culture, we kind of maybe already answered this, but how do you think nerd culture has evolved based on your own personal experiences? Joe, I want to lead off with you, man. I'm going to get some voice time with you, man.
Well, that's the thing, is that I don't know if I was ever really... I mean, obviously I played things like Magic the Gathering, but I never got so hardcore into it that I felt like I was a nerd into it. D&D, I mean, basically after 2nd edition, I stopped. I mean, all the rest of the editions were just horrible.
I feel like that alone sets you off in nerd culture.
Yeah.
Hey, don't judge.
God damn it, I'm a 2E purist. Yeah, well, fuck your 2nd edition. I want to go back and write a human elf.
Yeah, you might be the only one that I know what you're talking about because we've had this conversation before.
That's pretty impressive, though.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is I never really got into comic books. I never really got into superheroes. So I kind of feel a little out of place as far as nerd culture goes. So I don't know if I was ever really that deep into it.
Do you like role-playing games? How about podcasts? How about a podcast about a role-playing game? Check out our friends at Tomorrow's End, a podcast that follows a role-playing group as they navigate through a post-apocalyptic wasteland. All right, enough fucking words. Here's the trailer.
How did humanity get here? I just can't remember. The rest of the world didn't know why the end had come. They'd heard on the radio about an attack on the states by either Russia or China over dwindling resources. What we knew was that the world was going to end, and a crazy man named Morrow had a plan to save the world. Many teams were frozen in vaults deep underground, safely tucked away from all the bombs and nukes flying, and the asteroid that would finally end everything. They were supposed to wake up 25 years later and help pick up the pieces, but something went wrong, and everyone woke up a lot later, if they woke up at all. Cultists, criminals, madmen, they've been living and thriving through the radiation and destruction the entire time. Some good people also survived. They held on to hope by spreading stories about tomorrow's end.
All right, coming back from a little bit of a technical difficulty here. We were just talking to Joe, and I had to re-listen to what you were saying before, but you had mentioned that you liked a variety of things, but you weren't sure you really belonged or were really a part of nerd culture. What do you mean by that? I mean, like, I don't know. It sounds like you were maybe not to the level that maybe the exaggerated level that's typically, thought of when you think of nerd culture. Maybe not that, but I don't know. I've known you for a long time, and I feel like maybe like you were a different kind of nerd, like the intellectual nerd, like I like science and stuff like that. So, am I hitting the mark here? Or am I just sounding like an idiot?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I kind of got into D&D because I was smoking weed. It was. I mean, to be honest, when I was a kid.
There is that kind of nerd too.
Yeah,
that's how I started socializing with people, and the people that I ended up smoking with enjoyed things like D&D. So that's kind of how I got into it. I don't do that anymore, of course.
Oh yeah.
When I meet Joe for the first time, I know what we're doing.
I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Neither do I.
Nudge, nudge.
Yeah.
Wink, wink, yeah.
Yeah, wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
D&D, that's what I mean.
So I guess what I was getting at, though, is that I really don't know how it's changed. I mean, you look at popular culture with, the movie The Nerds, and I've never really experienced, even in school, I don't remember actually there being students like that, I think it was an over-exaggeration.
Okay. Well, I do have a question along those lines, but I guess we'll go ahead and get to that too. Anybody else want to take the reins on this one? I think, Joe, you're the only one to answer so far.
I mean, I can tell you, like, for me personally, like, I used to be very, 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 very shy about the things I was into when I was younger. Actually, all the way up through, probably my early 20s. I was absolutely terrified to tell anybody that I was into this kind of stuff. Not just because, like, I had gotten a hard time from people, because, quite frankly, like, as soon as I met people, like, high school who were into, like, D&D and gaming and that kind of stuff, I could relate to them and talk to them all the time. But as soon as I would, like, go back to school and I'd be around my other friends and stuff that didn't know that side of me, I mean, I would just shut it away and, like, put up this front to do everything I could to avoid talking about any of those interests that I had, which, it's super unfortunate to think about. But, like, as soon as I got to my early 20s, I got a job in retail and met a few people there who literally, they were playing, they were talking about World of Warcraft. And these were guys that I had worked with for a while, and had always talked, I heard them talking, like, sports and, that kind of stuff. And I just hear them talking World of Warcraft one day, and I'm like, holy crap, like, seriously? And then they literally just asked me, like, do you play WoW? And I was like, what? And I was like, yeah, I have before a little bit, and we became good friends. And I'm still friends with those guys to this day. And, ever since then, I kind of just realized, like, I think times definitely have changed, because nowadays I have no problems telling people I'm a huge geek, dude. I'm into this weird shit that nobody else likes. But the fact is, people do like it, and you just have to put yourself out there to find those other people. Fair. Otherwise, you're going to feel like crap. And it was more of like I was putting all that pressure on myself rather than anybody else actually giving me crap about it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And actually, Joe, you mentioned something pretty interesting, that you felt like the whole, like, I guess what you're really getting at was like the bullying and the making fun of nerds felt kind of exaggerated. Did anybody here ever get teased for being a nerd? Like, I mean, I hid that part of me too, and I still do, for the most part. I let it out in little bits, but like, did anybody here, like, ever get made fun of? Did you ever have that kind of experience, like, growing up, to make you kind of want to be careful about sharing?
I feel like I was more or less a geek or a nerd because people already teased the shit out of me. So
okay,
yep, same.
I was already socially inept and outcast.
Yeah, they give me crap about what I looked like and that kind of stuff. And because I didn't play sports, I played baseball for years, but, like, not at school or anything. So everybody at school didn't know that. Like, I was a tiny, skinny, little, ugly doofus, and that was what I got made fun of for. And that, and just added to it, but it had nothing to do with what I was into.
Being poor didn't help, so
Yeah, JJ blossomed into a beautiful giant, though, for the record.
Thank you. I think. I was just gonna say, I think another thing that's helped the geek culture evolve into something less stigmatic is the internet. Because even if you don't come out and go, hey, mainstream, I'm a geek, you can find easily more geeks that you relate to. So it's not so bad to go, hey, I'm a geek, because look, there's 100,000 others like me within, this distance that I can find.
Yeah, I mean, it's less isolating, but I mean, that's kind of a given when you're kind of exposed to basically a good portion of all of humanity through the internet. So, you know, but
that's slowly built up since like the 90s.
Yeah, I mean, definitely.
Back in the 90s, it was still kind of,
Well, yeah, back in the 90s, like having an internet connection and being able to navigate around the internet was a nerdy thing in itself. So, I mean, that was part of like the whole being technologically advanced as far as knowledge goes. But Drew, what about you, man? What is your experience tell you about how nerd culture has evolved, and like, did you ever go through an experience that kind of made you want to, like not tell anybody that you were into that kind of stuff, or was it kind of like how it was with JJ, how it was already like that and you just decided not to make it any worse, I guess?
No, like I never really had anything like that in high school. I was already always socially awkward. Like I didn't hang out with anyone in high school or do any of that kind of stuff. So I mean, like I never had any experiences with being like picked on or bullied. I was just one of those hide in the back and do my thing and no one knew anything about it kind of deal. So
yeah,
I never had any kind of like negative experiences based on the kind of stuff that I liked. Like I'm sure people talked shit about me and were mean, but I mean, there's nothing that stands out in my mind as being anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, the more I think about my experience growing up, the more I cannot pinpoint my reason for, like, back then feeling like ashamed of it, like I had to hide it. You know what I mean? Like I was never teased when I was a kid. I was actually in high school, I was actually fairly well known. I don't know if popular is the right term to use, but I was fairly well known, and I kind of was a little bit of I was a socially awkward social butterfly. So I kind of bounced between a lot of different groups of people who maybe all shared at least one common interest with me, but maybe not the rest of them, or not to the same level. I
could totally identify with you on that kind of deal. Like I had friends that were in all of the different like social groups, but I was never like part of any one social group.
Yeah, definitely.
I was the same way. Like I had little pockets of friends in like every single group, and a lot of those friends though kind of overlapped. Like I had all of my punk friends, and then I had all of my geek friends, and but I did friends that I did kind of sort of hide it from, or just didn't talk about all of my geekiness with, just because they make fun of it. But now those are the same people now that I find is now that, the stigma has lifted and being a geek is cool, that they're all into the geeky stuff now. So I find that kind of funny, but
it is funny kind of how it has reversed itself. And I have noticed that too, because now I don't know if it's just growing up and maturing a lot since high school, but like, I selectively share.
Kids are cruel.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, is that I never went through that. So I can't, like I said, I cannot pinpoint like anything that made me feel like I had to hide that part of me. It's a weird thing. And I don't know if that was like a societal pressure that it was like, or a perceived deal or whatnot. But like, I've always tried to be a little introspective about it and try and figure out like, why was I so scared of like letting people see that side of me? I mean, I found it was more like I found the people that liked that stuff and I stuck with it. But it was just in that context. Like, I didn't do it anywhere else, you know? So,
and maybe the younger you are and the bigger area, bigger city you grew up in, the less you had to deal with it. I don't know.
Yeah, it might be a topographical thing, you know, or not topographical. Wow.
Because you get a bigger city, you get more geeks per capita.
Geographical, yeah.
I do have to amend one of my answers, though, now that I think about it. I did have one negative kind of nerdy experience in high school, and it was, I think it was like 11th grade. Like, I think all of you guys know by now, like, I was in Boy Scouts, and I did all of that thing. And I got my Eagle Scout, which is something I was super proud of, but I never told anybody about it. And apparently what happened was my mom called the school and told them I had gotten my Eagle Scout. No. And there was an assembly at school. It was like on a Friday for like a pep rally or something.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I got called out in front of the whole school. I had to go down like onto the gym floor, and the principal was like, "This is Andrew Shutterly, and he's put forth a lot of hard work in the Boy Scouts of America." And like, I could just feel myself shrinking, smaller and smaller and smaller. And
you fuckers just ruined my life.
I was just like, I was so embarrassed. But then like, it was kind of a weird thing because I always looked up to this one kid because he did this, but he actually came out of the stands and told the principal, "Oh yeah, hey, I'm an Eagle Scout too. I did this stuff too." Like, and like, I don't know if he did it because he wanted recognition too, or because
he just realized you were like so embarrassed.
He's like, "This is my moment."
Or if he saw just like, this kid is gonna get crucified, and
he was up in the. I guarantee he was up in the stands just going, "This fucking poser." I swear.
I know. This was a kid. This was a kid who was in like, he was in the same troop that I was and everything, and I was just like, I don't know if you're doing this to try to show me up. Like, I don't know why you would do this in the first part, like in front of the whole school. Like, dude, this is not good. But
that's interesting to me that in your school career, like that was like social suicide, because like when I grew up, like I had a friend that was going after Eagle Scout. He ended up just not really giving a shit about it at one point when we got to high school, but I mean, like, people looked up to him as far as I could tell anyway.
I think the Scouts kind of goes in and out as to whether it's nerdy or macho, you know?
Yeah.
Because you go back to the 50s and shit, and the Boy Scout, that was the damn thing to do.
You were the man's man because you were shooting guns and tying knots and then, like,
punching squirrels and whittling things.
When I hit it in high school, it was like, all the weird nerdy loser kids get together and do crafts and hang out in the woods.
Boy Scouts became like AV club.
Yeah, like I mean, that wasn't what we did, but I mean, it was, but it wasn't. But you know.
Yeah, you did crafts in the woods with other boys. We get it.
Yeah,
that's right. And I sold overpriced popcorn.
Oh,
hell
nice.
yeah.
Yeah. Tucci, what about you, man? You got kind of a two-part question here. In your perception, how has nerd culture evolved, and was there any kind of experience? Like, I don't know, do you hide your nerdiness from people? Like, do you even have that problem? I mean, you kind of grew up a little later than the rest of us, so yeah.
I mean, I'm 26 now, just to remind you guys how old you are, but just kidding. I really don't hide my nerdiness as much as I guess I would say. Like, I kind of know I know my audience. Like I rolled pretty high in the charisma field. Once I got a hold of some like books that kind of teach you how to like actually interact with people, because like when I was younger,
that
I
is
didn't
so
really
fucking
like
nerdy,
people.
Tucci.
Yeah, I really didn't like people.
Were those books called Google and Wikipedia?
No, one was called like Think and Grow Rich, and like How to Win Friends and Influence People, and a couple other like
Everybody Poops.
Everybody Poops, that kind of stuff. Yeah,
the staples, you know.
But anyways, the staples of the charisma field. Anyways, so when I was younger, right? You're gonna be all right there, Wes. You broke him. At least his mic's working.
Wes, not funny. Everybody does poop.
Ladies and gentlemen, the MC is down. The MC is down.
No, so I had kind of like a very interesting like growing up and stuff because like I grew up kind of sort of in the nerd culture, but not really. I didn't really have family or anything in it. I definitely think nerd culture as a whole has evolved. I think that's pretty obvious, like from what everyone said, and including my own experience. But when I guess it would start kind of when I was younger and like, I don't know, first grade when I got my PlayStation 1, and then like the internet became kind of like a household thing with dial-up, and then I was on RuneScape and
you got a PlayStation 1 in first grade.
I think so. I think that's when I first got it. It may have been kindergarten actually.
You're such a baby. You're so little.
I know.
Oh man!
But so I don't know.
I
Like,
don't even know what the fuck a ColecoVision is, man.
Because like when my family when we moved to St. Louis, like in the inner city, I went to kind of like a not that great middle school, I guess is the best way to put it, and I was constantly in fights. Like the pinnacle of my 6th grade education was when a whole bunch of people got excited because my dad bought me a pair of Iversons, which were a type of shoe. So I don't really know if you could call me a nerd like then. I mean, I woke up to like hip hop and stuff on the alarm clock and such, but and then like 7th grade was kind of when we moved back into like, I guess the outer city area. And that's kind of when I started to meet like, not necessarily nerdy friends, but like, I don't really know how to put it exactly. Like I went to go to do like all like, I went to like, what fucking was it? What was it called? Like Magic Club and different stuff like that a couple times.
When you say Magic Club, do you mean like Magic the Gathering or like abracadabra shit?
Magic Club as in like Magic the Gathering.
JJ, get out of my brain, man. I was trying to.
I was picturing Tucci with a hat on, like
yeah.
a wand and stuff.
He's like all obsessed with being a wizard too. So
listen, Harry Potter's pretty cool, but I wasn't that interested in magic when I was younger. Yeah, and like and through middle school and stuff, they had Magic Club, and it wasn't really a very populated club. There was like a couple kids in there, and I didn't really mesh with them too well. I think because of the social status that most of those people were in. And then in high school, like nerdy stuff wasn't really my main thing. Like I slept most of the time in class.
Oh yeah.
Freshman and sophomore year, and then I played catch up the game for like the next 2 years and to graduate on time. But then like after high school, that's kind of when my nerd culture that's when I started to really dive into it, and I got into like video gaming, like really deep into video gaming. And then it wasn't even until recently that I started playing D&D, and like I'll be in a conversation at work and I'll just be like, oh yeah, I mean on this, the other day, or someone will ask me what I did for the weekend. I'll be like, oh, well, not a lot. I mean, I went over to my friends on Saturday and we played Pathfinder, and they're like, oh, what's Pathfinder? I'm like, it's kind of like Dungeons and Dragons. They're like, oh, okay. And I'm like, yeah, it's pretty cool. You should try it sometime. It's, I don't really let people get uncomfortable with it because like I think with like Dungeons and Dragons and stuff like that, there is still kind of that weird stigma because a lot of people don't understand what it is.
Yeah. They think it's running out in the middle of the woods in a cape, and
I think it's gotten better though. Like as far as Dungeons and Dragons go, because you've got a lot of celebrities that are actually coming out as saying like, freaking Vin Diesel loves it.
Oh yeah.
Like when I first heard that, I was like, really? That's all right, cool.
Yeah.
Like wasn't one of his movies like based off of a Dungeons and Dragons campaign that he did or something?
Yeah, something like that. And I know he does a lot of promotional work for it too, as far as like testing the game books and the modules and whatnot. I think he even wrote or I don't know. He wrote or edited something.
I've never met anybody who like was skeptical first, who gave it a shot, like actually tried it, had a decent DM, and ended up hating it still and thought it was stupid afterward. Like everybody loves it once they actually give it a chance.
Right.
Well, now you've got mainstream nerd actors, like nerds that became actors, because you got like Will Wheaton and Simon Pegg and shit like that going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, that actually segues a little bit into this next question here. So what aspects of nerd culture have gone mainstream exactly, so we can all have the same base here? What aspects do you think have really caught on in the public eye?
Somebody brought up superheroes earlier, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Comics and sci-fi for sure, I think, too.
Yep. Oh, I think...
Star Wars.
Yep. I think with the introduction of, like, high production value TV shows and movies, maybe not even so much movies, but TV shows. Like, I think Game of Thrones is probably the one series that you can get just about anybody into, regardless.
I was gonna say, like, Stranger Things.
Yep, that too.
Yeah, that's an easy segue into Dungeons and Dragons conversation too.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Anime went big old mainstream too.
The
Demogorgon. Well, anime went from there was like the Americanized version of anime now, because it got so popular that they, you know what I mean? Like, you got like the knockoff anime now. So
right.
Yeah.
I don't know. Are board games really mainstream now? They seem to be really fucking big these days, but I don't know if like normal people are playing them or just that I know so many nerds.
I'd say they're more
prevalent.
Yeah, exactly. Than they used to be, for sure.
I don't know if you'd call them mainstream, but I think the closest thing, as far as my perception is concerned, the closest mainstream that I would consider somewhat a nerdy, it's not even a board game, but a card game, is Cards Against Humanity. That has exploded.
Yeah, for sure.
And but beyond that, and I think I've heard a lot of people who I normally wouldn't have picked it out, who are into like Settlers of Catan and what's the other one? Yeah, I'm not
Carcassonne.
Sure. Not from my circles, but like still, like a lot of like the board game type stuff is still a lot of, from my perception, outside of you guys, and even only a fraction of you guys, outside of a fraction of you guys, I really don't hear anything. You know what I mean? I don't hear a lot of people like mentioning stuff that I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, we talked about this before, but like when you're out and about and then you hear someone mention something about, something nerdy, and you're not expecting to hear it from anybody, but you hear someone say something and you immediately pick up on it, and then you can go and like, introduce yourself and be like, hey, I like this shit too. But I haven't even heard other people talk about, like even strangers talk about a lot of the board games that we play and everything like that. So I don't know. That's just my perception, but I guess it depends on who you run with. So
yeah, fair.
So okay, so we have the Marvel and DC universes as far as the movies and stuff like that go. We have Game of Thrones, and then there's a lot of stuff that I feel like has gotten popular but has kind of come and gone. But is there anything else as far as what has gone mainstream?
Video games in general.
Oh yeah.
Definitely. Same thing there, Joe.
I feel like video games have always kind of been a mainstream thing, though.
It's definitely a gateway drug.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we'd have to go back to Ethan. Maybe you can help us out with this.
Back to 19.
From your perception and experience, were video games, like when they were, like a lot of them were first starting to come out, were they kind of a nerdy thing, or was it kind of like everyone was excited to try it?
I think it went in and out, because before the Atari 2600, you were getting some weird ass consoles, or hey, build your own fucking Apple computer.
Yeah.
Or, solder together your own video game that only plays Pong.
Yeah.
The 2600, I think, made it accessible to everybody, families, mainstream. So I think it went big for a little bit. And you had arcade cabinets, which were fucking huge in the 80s. And I think you could almost consider that mainstream then, because you had all walks of people going down to the video arcade to plunk their quarters in. Then I think it kind of tapered off again until the Nintendo came out, the original Nintendo. And you had other shit back there like Neo Geos and Turbo Graphics and stuff like that, but only I think hardcore people were into. They were terribly expensive consoles.
Yeah, I would say the Nintendo definitely created some sort of a pop, at least in the whole industry. Because I mean, like you look at it now, there was definitely a lull after that. Because you talk to people now, and most everybody is into video games nowadays. But if you talk to anybody nowadays who really isn't, the first thing they're probably going to say is, "Oh yeah, I like video games. I remember playing Mario when I was 4 or something like that when they were a kid." And they'll always bring back those classic regular NES games that everybody played when they were around that.
And I mean,
time.
They kind of snowballed from there because you had Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Nintendo 6. I mean, it just kept building and building, and then Sega came out and split off and said, "Hey, let's give these fuckers some competition." And then eventually, Microsoft jumped in on it, and by then it was insane.
Yeah, it just kept getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah, I can see that.
So some of you, Tucci, were probably born into it, where it was already fairly mainstream.
Hey, he had a PlayStation in first grade.
My brother had a Sega that we played before that, and I owned the old Nintendo.
My first video game was a Radio Shack Nintendo electronic television scoreboard.
Do you want to high
It
five?
played 3 variations of Pong.
I'm not gonna lie, I'd high five him for that. I would high five him for that.
Yeah.
Do you want a cookie?
This was in 1970.
Jesus, you're old.
I would agree definitely with video games have kind of always been mainstream. I think it's more just the specific genres that have kind of maybe remained.
I mean, you still hear the stigma of, the people that just sit around and play video games all fucking day, blah, blah, blah. But
But at
the same time, you've got so many walks playing them because you've got the ESPN, whatever, EA sports game criteria. And I mean, you've got racing games, you've got fighting games, you've got
hunting games.
And then you can go back to the Final Fantasy nerds. Yeah, you've got hunting games.
Yeah.
I miss the old days when like parents would buy their kids video games that were just like they seemed fine on the like CD on like the actual case, and then like while they were playing it, they're like, "Oh my god, what are you doing in that video game?" "Oh, I'm just kicking off some dude off his motorcycle with a chainsaw, no big deal." Like I remember one of my first games, Road Rage on the PS1. My mom was like, "What did I buy you?" A racing game, Mom.
Oh god.
It's
days.
Totally off topic, but I'll tell you what I miss is instruction booklets. I just wanted to say that.
Oh wow, yeah. That's that's a new one, or not? That's not a new one, but that's something I haven't thought about in a while.
Nothing like open up a new game and cracking out that instruction booklet and just
chucking it in the corner.
Like, oh man, what? No!
Yes, chucking it in the corner. Yep.
Hold on, I got to flip through the instruction booklet to beat the copyright protection.
You guys are the worst.
No, man,
I'm
open the
offended.
instruction booklet to the first 2 pages where it was like, here's what all the buttons do, and here's some combos, and then you were like, when you memorized it, you put it back in the case and forgot about it.
Oh, see, I played RPGs, and they always had like intros to the story and then character bios and that kind of stuff, and I loved reading that stuff.
I either rented or pirated half my shit, so
JJ dwarfs us with his video game nerdom, though.
And a lot of us would get out the video game, start playing it, and go, "Wait, what the fuck?" and get out the instruction booklet.
Oh, and the other thing was the illustrated guides. That you remember Prima or
Prima, yeah, they still make guides.
Do they really?
Yeah,
because I remember like you weren't cool if you just had the game. Like you had to have the Prima guide, so that like I played Final Fantasy VII.
Doing everything in the game ever.
Yeah, I had the guide to Final Fantasy VII, and that was It made the game cool, but
Prima never made a guide for Final Fantasy VII. Brady Games made that guide. There was also another one by Versus Books. No big deal.
See what I mean?
Shut the fuck up, you nerd.
I collect this shit. I love it, man. I really do.
But I remember playing.
You kind of really
playing
needed
Final
the guides
Fantasy
to Final
VII
Fantasy, though.
Well, yeah,
A lot of them,
like fucking breeding chocobos and getting Knights of the Round. Come on, it's like nobody. Like,
if you look at some of the old PS2 games, like when those started coming out, they literally will have stickers on the front of the boxes that say "Strategy Guide Recommended."
Yep, I remember that. Oh man, good times.
Sorry, I didn't mean to
No, it's
throw
all
us
right.
off.
It's all right. It's all right. We'll go on to the next question here.
Old computer games back in the day, you had to have the manual to actually deal with their copyright protection. That's how they did copyright protection back then. Because you'd load the game and it would say, okay, type in the word from page 12, paragraph 6, word 7.
Really?
I remember that. Like Sim Ant and like Rampart and stuff, those games would do that, yeah.
Or they'd have a grid inside the book or something that says, column A, row 2, what's the letter?
Yeah.
And there's your copyright protection.
That's pretty interesting. What parts of nerd culture have remained kind of exclusive? Like what is still part of our little
LARPing.
bubble? LARPing for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else?
The SCA, owning a Nintendo Power Glove.
Bronies.
Recompiling a Linux kernel.
Somebody say bronies?
Yeah.
Bronies.
Yeah. Not wrong.
Those are things that should stay in that deep corner of
Hey man, I don't judge.
Yeah.
You like what you like.
Yeah.
Right. I don't want it to become mainstream is my thing.
Oh man, stay in your closets, nerds. That's what Tucci's saying.
Please. For the love that is.
Oh god.
And I feel like for a lot of the female nerds out there, there's like this whole Disney princess geek culture that's gotten pretty popular now too, with the Care Bears and the My Little Ponies and whatever the fuck they sell at Hot Topic.
I'll give you the Care Bear stare.
Yeah, you know what? I don't normally like to separate the nerddom like this, but Tracy, did you notice anything different growing up being a girl as opposed to what you've heard us talk about as far as your experiences in nerd culture?
I feel like back when I was younger, there weren't quite as many like geek girls out there. I feel like I was one of the few, and I feel like now it's gotten a lot more popular with girls, and
I think
more
you
girls
had,
are gamers. And
I think you had some nerdy girls, but not so much geeky girls, because you had like band nerds or straight A student kind of nerds.
Yeah, but there wasn't a lot.
Or you're just
girls that were considered like serious gamers back then, or there weren't a lot of girls that played D&D. You'd have a small few pockets here and there, but not like it is now. Because I kind of figured I was more of like a novelty back when I was a teenager. I would tell, my guy friends that like, yeah, I play D&D and yeah, I like comic books. And they're like, you do?
You unicorn.
Like, but you're a girl.
Yeah.
And it's not that way anymore. It's not quite as a male dominated thing anymore.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that as far as like my own observations, but I do definitely think that there are some extra stigmas attached to girl gamers than there are guy gamers, but that'll be another show actually.
GVSB, Girls versus Boys Night.
Exactly. Yep. Pew 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 pew. All right, so we touched on this briefly, kind of in passing, but what do you guys think happened to the unpopular, the smart geek culture, like the people that are purely like into science and mathematics and like the academic nerds, as you know?
They all watch The Big Bang Theory.
Oh yeah. I was say because I don't notice those people anymore, and again, it may be like the crowd that I run with because I was never a good student, and you know what I mean. Like
they're still there.
They are?
They all program.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Science geeks actually are getting to be a lot bigger
They all
thing
live
now
in Silicon
lately, which is
Valley.
good. Who is that girl that I sent a link to? Because she's like major robotics nerd, and it's awesome.
The one who builds the shitty robots.
Yeah, the shitty robots girl.
Oh, I just posted that.
They're not shitty robots, but
They're
the
funny
ones that,
robots?
like-
She purposely builds shitty robots.
Yeah.
Oh, like the ones that like the rubber hand that slaps her to wake her up in the morning.
Yeah.
Why the fuck would you build that?
Why the fuck wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly.
I know, right?
I would not want to get slapped first thing in the morning. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh, she didn't look happy at all. So.
Simone Giritz.
Okay.
Simone Giritz is her name, and she's fucking awesome. Go to YouTube, look at her channel. Yes, I'm pimping her and giving her free advertisement. I don't care. She's my new nerd crush. I can't help it.
So the answer to what happened with the smart academic nerds is that they just became completely mainstream and they're not really like segregated, I guess. Would you say that?
They grew up and got really good jobs. That's what happened to them.
Yeah,
they're everybody's bosses now. Yeah.
Right?
I mean, look.
Well, cut out. Hello. Oh shit.
Yeah, so that's the thing.
Yeah.
They're all our bosses.
Okay, yeah.
So
The Illuminati got him.
The Illuminati.
Yeah, the Illuminati got it. Joe,
Damn it, Joe.
Oh, wow, I just had a whole conversation with you guys and I had been disconnected.
Yeah. We were,
Yeah, we noticed.
That is an accurate statement. Yep.
what were you gonna say, man? I don't even remember where you were at. You
Where did I cut out?
Tucci remembers.
Well, and then
that doesn't help.
My only rant there was I was going off about Maya Biliak and, you know, her mainstream science geekiness that, like, where they interviewed her for Big Bang Theory and they're like, oh, you know, what's it like trying to remember all the science and physics stuff for the show that you don't understand, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, yeah, I hold 2 PhDs, thanks.
Oh, you're talking about
she's like an actual rocket scientist.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Amy
lady
Farrah
on
Fowler.
yeah, there we go. I watched a really cool video on Facebook from her that she was talking about how she used D&D to like connect with her 2 young sons. Like, I don't know if anybody else saw that. But yeah, it was kind of a cool bridge. Like, I mean, you know, I don't know if my daughter or any other future children are going to be into that kind of stuff, but you better damn well believe I'm gonna try it out. But yeah, I thought that was kind of cool. Ethan, we were talking about like what happened to the really smart geeks. I think you might have already said it, but I think that might have been the tangent you were going off of.
That is absolutely the tangent I was. Good Lord, how much did I miss?
I don't know. I don't even know. I won't know until I listen to it.
As long as
later.
I got to talk about Simone Giritz and Maya Biliak, then I'm fine.
Okay, all right.
I'm probably butchering both their names, but
I think it's
I love you guys.
Mayim Bialik. I know it's a weird one, but yeah, I was surprised to hear it pronounced that way too. Okay, next question here. This one's a little bit kind of a joke, but do you think that even just a little bit of nerd identity is chipped away with every new Marvel or DC movie that's released? Do you feel like the mainstreaming of nerddom is kind of...
It's killing me.
It's kind of like
I'm dying.
Taking away a little bit of the appeal to it. Like, you know what I mean? Like our safe haven.
I gotta find all new, deeper, geekier things to go do now.
That's the second part. Like, do you think we're being driven like even further into our basements because of it? Like seeking new and better.
We're like nerd hipsters.
Shit. Yeah.
God damn it! I did that before. It was cool.
That's such a hipster stance on this. Like,
yeah, I wish I could find a quote that I read the other day. It was something. It was something to do exactly with what you just said about how people feel like now that they've got to change what they like because it's becoming mainstream. I really wish I could remember it because they put it in a really decent manner. But I think culture, like the culture at least of the U.S. in general, and potentially the world, is sort of changing more towards geeky culture. Because I mean, if you think about it, a lot of the stuff that we saw in movies that people portrayed as geeky or nerdy have kind of became accurate. You know, like for instance, the whole flying car thing. You know, it's not exactly here yet, but they're definitely working on it. Like that's a real technology that's happening. Being able to look at your phone and use it to hop on the internet. I think that was portrayed in some fucking like really ancient ass movie in the 80s or whatever. So, there's a lot of these things that are just kind of becoming culture, and like I don't think that's a bad thing personally. Like I love the fact that I can go anywhere now and talk about superheroes. You know, I think that's awesome. Maybe it's just because I'm younger than you guys, but
yeah.
No, I'm with you. I think it's great that you don't have to be embarrassed to like superheroes anymore. You could go and talk to just about anybody about the Avengers or Justice League or whatever.
Yeah,
I'm a little on both sides of the fence of that because it's nice to see like shit that I've always been into being accepted. But then there are times where I go out and I listen to people talking about it and I'm like, oh my fucking God, shut up. Just shut up. No, you don't belong. Shut up.
Well, that's not the right way to look at it.
That is one way to look at it because the movies take everything that we love and know everything about, and they just dumb
shit
it
on it.
Fuck down.
They shit on it.
Gloss it.
Or they cut it apart, or they gloss over it.
See, this is why I don't read books or comic books, because I can watch a movie and be happy with what they put on the screen.
You know what, Tucci?
Like
I actually agree with that.
But
Movie.
No, that was not a great movie.
You shut your whore mouth.
I haven't even read comic books in relation to that, and I dislike that movie. So fuck you.
You shut your whore mouth.
No,
you go back to your whore island.
That was a terrible movie.
Dirty bastard.
That was single-handedly the most boring hero movie I've watched since.
Have you ever watched Ang Lee's Hulk? Because that is the most boring superhero movie ever.
I said that I've watched. I said that I have watched, okay? Not that's been made.
You know what? No, man.
Wait,
I'm
so did you watch Batman vs. Superman?
Bite me. Bite me.
That shit was fucking boring.
When you come up here in May, we're going to live stream a fucking fight.
Hey, there'll be a wrestling episode.
Oh, God.
No, I did not like that movie at all.
The full-on fucking nerd brawl in here.
Yeah.
So, slap fight?
Yeah.
Probably my favorite part of the movie is when they fucking when Thor called down the thunder and lost one of his fucking eyes. That was fucking metal. But until that point, the rest of it was just bullshit.
Okay.
I have lost so much respect for you in the last 5 minutes.
I don't need your respect. I'm an independent man, thank you.
You don't need no man.
Yeah.
But I don't need no man.
You don't need no man to validate your existence.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, I still hate you, so there's that.
Oh my God.
I have diabetes, so. This milkshake was really good, by the way.
Oh my God, we're getting.
Oh yeah, I can drink the milkshake.
Are there a bunch of boys in your yard?
I just gotta take a shot.
What is happening right now?
I don't know.
Derailment. That's what.
I've lost control.
Can we go back to everybody poops?
No, Tucci and I are too busy slap fighting in the corner, ruining the social party.
All right.
Especially DC movie directors.
I cannot believe that was that fucking like controversial.
I know that got really heated.
Welcome to
really
nerd culture,
like
Tucci. All right, nerds. Joe, did you have any take on that as far as the mainstreaming of nerd culture, like kind of taking a little bit of the magic away?
No, not really.
What?
Okay. To be honest, and like I said before, I never really had the magic of nerd culture for me. It was never something that I was horribly into.
Oh man,
to that level, it was all kind of a shallow interest.
Okay.
You picked a really weird episode to come on.
I know. I love Joe's answers because they're all like, Wes will go, so Joe, what do you think about that? And he just goes,
I don't.
I don't. Yeah. So what are your experiences, Joe? None.
No, it's all right. That was like Peterson when he was on. I was like, what are you into? He's like, oh, not much. Tracy, what about you? Do you feel like any like the mainstreaming of any kind of aspect of nerd culture is kind of taking away what made it so dear to our hearts?
So I like the fact that it is becoming more mainstream, because I do like the fact that I don't feel like I'm, the nerdy outcast, and I like the fact that now, I feel like there's more people I can talk to about geeky kind of stuff, and I swear to God I can articulate. But on the other hand, though, there is a part of me that kind of almost feels like, it was something that, was kind of special friends and groups of, well, this is what makes us unique,
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it's like a double-edged sword. Like I kind of go back and forth on it,
Totally agree. That's kind of where I'm at too. Because
that's kind of what I was wondering. Like, if it continues the way it's going, like, I mean, video games, perfect example. You turn on ESPN now, and you might see League of Legends, or Dota, or something like that. It's insane how mainstream some of this stuff's getting. But it makes me wonder, like, if somewhere down the line, the people who are quote unquote nerds now are going to find something new to, kind of get themselves separated from what's mainstream and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Full dive virtual reality. That'll be the next big step.
Oh, yeah, that's actually
but that's going to appeal to everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm only saying full dive virtual reality will be like the break off for the nerd culture at first, because the stigma that will likely come with it is you don't like your real life, so you have to go play virtual.
I say it'll be
so everybody that was in Second Life.
Right, kind of, yeah. I mean, really.
Yeah. Or World of Warcraft to a lesser extent.
We've been tinkering with VR since the 90s.
I'm talking full dive.
Full immersion.
Yeah.
Neural jacks. Ooh, neural jacks.
Yeah, bro. I'm getting that as soon as I can.
Give me the wetware.
I promise. Wherever they put that jack is where I'm getting it.
Are you jacking on in there?
And with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. We've gone on for a long time, actually.
Yeah, it's past my bedtime, you young whippersnappers.
Anyone have anything they want to add to kind of wrap this whole thing up?
Don't ask that.
Don't even start, Drew.
Thor Ragnarok's a great movie. Tucci's wrong. Mic drop.
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
Okay.
Anyone with objective views of hero movies will vehemently disagree with you.
That's okay. I will fist fight all of you. I have needles. You're all gonna get injections.
Oh God.
All gonna get the injection.
Wouldn't be my first rodeo.
Quickly.
Yeah, for
what?
Real.
No, I guess my only thing is like, I really, really dislike this whole media push lately, and it's been very lately about like how bad video games are.
Well,
like you kind of pointed it out earlier. Like some people are wanting to try and put like what was it again? It was it's a mental condition or whatever to be addicted to video games.
Handicap.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, come the fuck on, guys.
Well,
let's
like,
be real.
Well, and to be honest, like intellectually honest about it, like the actual definition is like the addiction side of it. But the problem is that when you report on something like that, and everyone just used the term. They just said playing video games is now considered a mental illness. That's what people are going to latch on to. The actual part is the addiction that comes along that some people have. Where I mean, again, like with World of Warcraft, like when that was it's still popular, but when that was in its heyday, like you had all these stories of all these people who would like neglect their children or would starve themselves to death because they're on a huge WoW binge. You know what I mean? Like that is a problem. That I would consider that, definitely, worthy of consideration. But the fact is that they took it. And again, with the media the way it is, they took it and they ran with it as it just being, if you play video games, then you're considered to have a mental illness. So that attached a stigma to video games once again. And then, this is all I'm going to say on this subject. Everything that has happened with in the news as far as gun violence and everything like that has stupidly taken us back to the days of people wanting to accuse video games of being the influence behind violent behavior. And
D&D made my son satanic.
Exactly. It's such an old, outdated thing that we've already gone through before, and they already did studies on it. Like, nothing has changed. Like, it's just not that way.
I don't care what political group. I don't care what political group you're a part of. Keep your fucking hands off my video games.
Look at this. Now we got Wes to go off on a tangent.
Yeah.
Period. Okay.
Yeah, okay. So anybody else have anything to say? We're going to go ahead and pull the plug on this one.
Just say no.
Before we have another 15-minute segment of Drew and Tucci bitching back and forth at each other.
I don't know. That was gold. I think after the whole Thor Ragnarok thing, I think we agree on most everything else,
Yeah. Well, there's always got to be something, right?
I mean,
he's just wrong about Thor Ragnarok. That's fine.
You know what, Tucci? Suck a dick, all right? A big veiny bastard, all right?
Welcome to Season 2, listeners.
And we'll see you next time.
Yeah, all right.
Legion is the best Marvel show out there, so shut up.
Have a good night, everyone. Thanks for putting up with us for this long. We'll see you again in a couple weeks. Check out our website. I mean, we've had the website for a while, but things are new on it. There's a little more information on it than there was before. Keep on a lookout for our Patreon page. And I guess I don't really know what else to say. So have a good night. We love you.
Okay, love you. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Basement Dwellers podcast. If you like what you hear and are interested in supporting our show in any way, please head over to www.tvdpod.com and click on the support the show link for ideas. Till next time, nerds.